Shalom, shalom, peace and blessings. Welcome to the Fourth Angels Learning Center. Today we're going to be beginning our Psalms 119 study. There's a little bit of an interesting dynamic with this chapter that I want to bring out. I will be breaking these studies down in 8 stanzas each. In the Psalms 119, there's every 8 stanza begins with a Hebrew letter. And what I've come to find out is that the Hebrew letter actually brings insight as to the perspective on how to look at these verses. The reason being is if you read Psalms 119 is the longest chapter in the scriptures in the book of Psalms. And if you read it straight through without looking at different angles and different perspectives of each stanza, every 8 verses, sometimes it may seem like David is talking in circles or he's repeating the same thing in such a long amount of verses. But in actuality, there's a perspective, there's a focus based off of the Hebrew letter that's presented in the very beginning of each verse. So this is going to be another series, a Psalm series that we're going to be breaking down, looking at the Hebrew word, the evolution of the Hebrew word from the pictograph all the way to the modern, seeing how it looks so that way we could become more familiar with the Hebrew language as well. So this is going to be pretty nice to go over, especially understanding the concepts that we're going to find in each stanza, every 8 verses that we can apply to our lives. But before we get started, I want to remind everybody, if we've been a blessing to you and you desire to support this ministry, you can support us at 4alc.com. You can look at the description and find the instructions there. You could also support us at 4alcbless for Cash App. That's $ 4alcbless. You could also support us if you have not subscribed already, or if you have watched us before and have not subscribed, please consider subscribing, hitting the notification bell so you can be aware of all the content that comes out and all the different letters that we will be going over in the future. One of the biggest ways that you can help support our ministry is to share these videos with others. If it's blessed you, allow it to bless others. Share it on your page, share it wherever you would like. All right, so with that being said, we are going to go to Psalms 119 because I want to show you guys and make you aware of this Hebrew letter that's located in the beginning of each stanza, right? So we're in Psalms. Let's go to Psalms chapter 119. If you look at the King James Version, the King James Version has it as well. In verse 1, you see Aleph. And then on the 9th, after the 8th verse, right, you're going to see Bet, which is the second letter in the alphabet, the Hebrew alphabet. After 16, another 8 verses, you have another Hebrew letter. We're going to be using the Sefer because the Sefer actually highlights these letters right here and shows you the modern as well. So we're going to start here. We're going to start here, and we're going to break this down and see how it applies to us based off of the Aleph Bet perspective. So we're going to be talking about this, okay? Every Hebrew letter is a word. So this letter here is the letter Aleph, but the letter Aleph creates a word also. It's not just simply a letter, but it's a word. So when you have a Hebrew letter, it's also a word. And when you have Hebrew words, it becomes a sentence because it's multiple words put together to create a statement. Okay? And this is very important for us to grasp. So let's take a look at this. This is the letter Aleph. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the letter Aleph so we can become more familiar with this letter. Okay? Here is the letter Let me see if I can possibly increase the size. There we go. This is the modern. This is the way the Aleph looks in the modern. This is right before it was they adopted this way of writing it. It used to look like this. This is what we refer to as the Paleo. This is referred to as the Paleo Hebrew, and this is the ancient pictograph form of the Hebrew language. This is a picture of a ox head. You can see the head here, and then you can see the horns as it evolved. You can see that in ancient manuscripts as well as different archaeological findings. You can see that this was written in those findings, and you can still see the horns, but there's a slight difference in regards to the shape of it. It's more of a triangle with the line going across. This one is more the actual shape of the animal. As we continue to move forward in history, we'll see that this was found in many of the writings, and this is what they use normally today in modern times. This is why it's referred to as the modern Hebrew. Okay, this is very, very interesting to look at the ancient pictograph so you can get a clear picture of the intention behind this letter. Now, this letter means strength, power, and leader. Strength, power, and leader. How does the ox head represent strength, power, and being a leader? The interesting thing is that in many instances of the lifestyle of the Hebrew, especially in regards to agriculture, the ox was used in order to plow their field. So the ox would be in front of the actual farmer, leading them out. Well, I apologize for this. Let's look at this. Sorry about that. Let's take a look at this. So as you can see here, the ox is in front right here. The ox is in front of the farmer as they plow the ground. This is why they're referred to as strength, power, leader, because they cultivate, they lead out, they use their energy and their strength to bring about the conditions that's needed in order to get some food, in order to get nourishment. All right. So this is very important for us to grasp in regards to understanding the Aleph. All right. So let's look at this again. The Aleph is the ox. It means strength, power, and leader. The reason being is because the ox in the society, in the agricultural society, especially at that time, was utilized in order to basically go ahead of the farmer in the cutting of the ground, in order to dig the ground. The strength and the power of the ox was used to dig the ground, so that way they can actually plant the seed. So this is very important for us to understand the understanding of this letter. We will have a series in regards to the family, and we will be breaking down each family member in Hebrew as well. So check that out. So let's go to the Psalms. Let's go to the Psalms so we can see how does Aleph, right here, Psalms 119, verse 1. How is strength, power, and the leader, yahuah being our strength, yahuah being our power, and he, of course, being our leader, how is this applied to the first 8 verses in Psalms 119? Let's take a look. It says, "Blessed are the undefiled in the way, who walk in the Torah of Yahuwah. Blessed are they that guard his testimonies, that seek him with their whole heart. They also do no iniquity. They walk in his ways. You have commanded us to guard your precepts diligently. Oh, that my ways were directed to guard your statutes. Then shall I not be ashamed when I have respect unto all your commandments. I will praise you with uprightness of heart. When I shall have learned your righteous judgments, I will guard your statutes. Oh, forsake me not utterly. What does this have to do with leadership? The leadership, the representation of Yahuwah, being undefiled in the way. Blessed are the undefiled in the way. Those who walk according to the Torah of Yahuwah are the ones who ought to be the guide, the leader, especially of the home. The fathers are to be the ones walking in the way, striving diligently to be undefiled in the way, as it mentions in verse 1, to guard the testimonies. Blessed are they that guard the testimonies. There's a strength and there's a power that Yah gives us and enables us in order to walk uprightly. But not only there's not only a strength that's given to us to walk uprightly, there's also a strength in seeking him with the whole heart. There's a power that we receive. That power is associated with righteousness. This is very important in looking at Aleph. That power is associated with righteousness. They also do no iniquity. You see that? They are righteous, they are not unrighteous. The strength and the power of the leader is inside of the believer, causing him to be undefiled in the way, causing him to walk in the Torah of Yahuwah, causing him to guard the testimonies and to seek him with their whole heart and to walk without iniquity, to walk in his ways. Strength is absolutely needed in this to accomplish this desire that Yah has for his people. It says, you have commanded us to guard your precepts diligently. So we clearly see that this is a desire that comes from Yah to us. And in order for us to accomplish this, we need his power and his strength. We need his guidance to lead. We need him to lead us. Let's continue to look at the next group of verses. It says, oh, that my ways were directed to guard your statutes. Why is he mentioning that? Because he just said, you commanded us to guard your statutes. He's referring to looking at his collective life. All my life, he desired it to be directed towards his statutes. And he says, then shall I not be ashamed, because there were many instances in which David was ashamed of. There was many practices, there was many actions that he has taken that caused him shame and shame on his family. Shame as being a king and a representation of Yah, it caused shame and misrepresented who Yah was. And he feels that shame because he does not desire to misrepresent Yahuwah. It says, when I have respect unto all your commandments, he says, then shall I not be ashamed when I have respect unto all your commandments. When I honor your commandments, it will take away my shame. It says, I will praise you with the uprightness of heart when I shall have learned your righteous judgments. I will guard your statutes. Forsake me not utterly. So important to understand that the Aleph represents increase. It represents a moving forward, a work that we ought to do, that we ought to walk. Look what it says in verse 1. Walking in the Torah is a manifestation of strength, is a manifestation of power. It reveals righteousness. It removes iniquity. You understand? It removes shame. Then shall I not be ashamed. Verse 6, when I have respect unto all your commandments. It removes shame. But the power has to be given to us by Yah. And this is the praise Yah. This is not only the beginning of the Aleph Bet, this is also the beginning of what's needed in order to pursue Yah, to seek him with all his heart. We need his power, and his power comes through his Ruach. We see this. Let's look at a few verses. Acts chapter 1. Look at what it says here. Acts chapter 1, verse 8, it says, you shall receive power, right? Acts chapter 1:8, you shall receive power after the Ruach HaKodesh is come upon you, after the set apart spirit is come upon you. This is where the power comes from. This power is what enables us to walk uprightly, as mentioned in the book of Psalms, to walk undefiled, the power of the Ruach, to walk in his Torah, to guard his testimonies, not only to guard and to walk, but also to seek him with our whole heart, to walk uprightly and do no iniquity. You see, even to learn, we need the Ruach helps us to learn. It gives us all understanding. When I shall learn your righteous judgments. Now, there's an emphasis, Aleph, right? So the word Aleph is also located in the scripture. It's translated as ox, as we mentioned before. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 14. Get a little bit of understanding. It says, where there's no oxen, where no oxen are. Now, the interesting thing is that this principle is very important as well. So we're going to talk about this principle as well. So this H504 is the Hebrew word Aleph. Aleph, right? Is the Aleph. This is the Lamed. We're going to touch on that later on. This is the Lamed, and this is the Pei. Aleph. Strength, power, leader. The Lamed is an emphasis on binding, teaching as well. And then this is Pei, which is referring to the mouth, to blow, to scatter, as well as to open. So it's interesting. The strength of teaching opens. This is where the strength comes from. This word Aleph, look at how it's used. A family, the strength of the family. Ox. So in this particular use of this word, we have the word oxen used. Right? In the book of Judges, it's actually the word for family. Judges chapter 6, verse 15, it says, and he said unto him, O my master, wherewith shall I save Israel? Behold, my family is poor in Manasseh, and I the least in my father's house. So my family, so he refers to his family being poor, his strength. The strength of his family is poor. So let's take a look at this. Where there's no oxen, the crib is clean. The crib, meaning the dwelling place of the ox. But much increase is by the strength of the ox. This is very interesting. Much increase is by the strength of the ox. So we see that the strength of the ox is what brings increase. If the ox is not working or moving, the crib is clean because nothing has been done. So if the crib is clean, there is no increase, there's no farming being done. The strength of the ox is not being used. But when the crib is dirty, where the dwelling place of the ox is dirty, is because they've been walking in the dirt, walking in the mud. And then when they get put back up in the stall, they drag all of that dirt in there, but it's a sign that the ox has been working. So much increase is by the strength of the ox. Much increase is by the strength of the ox. So when we're looking at Psalms, it's very important to see this same principle. The strength of yahuah, produces increase. And that increase is the increase of righteousness. That increase is the increase of strength, walking properly, walking undefiled, walking in the Torah, guarding his testimonies, seeking him with their whole heart. This is the using of the Ruach, using of the power and of the strength, the utilizing of the power of the strength in order to perform these deeds. Because we can also not use the Ruach. We can also not allow the Ruach to give us increase by studying the word, by praying, by strengthening our mind, by removing certain things as well. Do no iniquity, walking contrary to the wicked flesh. You have commanded us to guard your precepts diligently. Oh, that my ways were directed to guard your statutes. So this is an awareness. Me alone, separate from you, am unable to guard your statutes, but with your Aleph, with your power and your strength, I am able to do those things. This is what allows my shame to go away, not only when I believe, but when I obey. So when we get down to the end, it says, I will praise you now. Now there's the conclusion. I'll praise you with an uprightness of heart when I shall learn your righteousness, your righteous judgments, learning his Torah, learning and understanding his right rulings. This is what allows us strength as well. I will guard your statutes, forsake me not utterly. So the Aleph is an excellent perspective to look at the emphasis on what allows us to perform these things, what allows us to walk undefiled. It is the strength of yahuah. What allows us to walk in the Torah? Don't just talk about Torah and keeping commandments and then you don't walk in his strength and his power, that you don't lead, that you don't walk and be a representation of strength by allowing his strength to free us from our weaknesses. Our weaknesses is the flesh. So if our weaknesses is the flesh, then his strength must be his spirit. We have to understand that. None of these things can be accomplished without his spirit. As we read in Acts chapter 1, verse 18. So when the oxen, when the oxen, where the oxen are, the crib is clean, but when it's dirty, there's increase. The increase when the oxen, it comes by the strength of the ox. So we have to use the strength. We can't be running on of our own power, of our own strength, because it won't accomplish anything. We have to use Yah's power and Yah's strength. Praise Yah. This was a short, just something real simple to apply to our mindset, to the way of thinking of our everyday walk, to recognize Yah's strength and Yah's power, to cry out to Yah, call on it now, and put that strength to work. Just as the ox is put to work in order to bring forth increase in the farm, put the ruach, we are given the ruach to put it to work. If it's to reveal truth, put it to work. If it's to establish righteousness, put it to work. Exercise your mind with the word. Exercise your hands with obedience. Exercise your mouth. Guard your lips. Refrain from iniquity, as we just read, and promote the righteousness that comes from Yah, comes from his word, that can only be accomplished by his power and by his strength. Okay, I hope that this was a clear, encouraging message to everyone. And please feel free to email us. Look forward to seeing you guys in the next Hebrew letter study, which is the letter Bet. Shalom, everyone. Shalom, shalom. Thank you guys for joining our study today. I hope that it was edifying. And if you want to support this ministry, you can support us on 4alc.com. And don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube page. Click the like button and the notification bell. I hope to see you guys on the next study. Shalom, guys.